What's up, guys? Long time no see.
How you doing, Robert Hoderbino, Devil's Digest? I know sometimes it's hard to prepare for two quarterbacks when one of them doesn't play that much, but is it somewhat of a luxury knowing that USC may go with a two-quarterback system this week as well, and they just did it last Saturday? Does that help you as a defensive line coach maybe a little more than one of the quarterbacks being an unknown?
Yeah, I think it always helps to have it on film. That's always going to be a plus. And so it's always a benefit. Plus, I mean, you get to see most times when you put a young guy in, it's packaged. I think they, for the most part, trust this kid. And we know Jackson, he was part of the recruiting process. And the kid can do it also. They've expanded it. But typically, every quarterback has his rhythm. And so you're going to see packaged plays according to who's in. So that's not necessarily the case here, but at least having evidence on film, this guy can run, this guy will run, this guy runs this way. It's always better to have it on film.
Hey, Rob. Chris Carbon, son of a source. When you factor in everything, the injuries, opponent style of play, et cetera, how have you felt about the ability to generate pressure in the last couple weeks, couple games?
Well, I mean, you can look at it two ways, all right? And I think the one way is to kind of pull it out and just go by the numbers and the stat sheet. I've always told you that's not the way it is. I think you got to watch the film and watch how it's generated. I'll say this, that the last two opponents have had a plan for us as a defensive line. I think that's a good thing for us. Obviously, Utah decided to keep tight ends and backs in. And that means in our game plan, because of things going on during that game, we couldn't pressure. And so it's 6 on 4, 7 on 4. However, and the same thing with Washington State, they decided to run against that. And so I think that's different when you're in a pass rush front. They decide to run. And then I thought they got the ball out pretty fast looking at the film. However, I still have been, I think, a little disappointed in our level of play in terms of the one-on-ones. There's always a one-on-one someplace, and you got to win those at a high percentage. And we haven't done that as well as we did in the first couple of weeks. I'm always hard on my guys about that. I think we've allowed the situation to get our eyes and hands undisciplined. Guys get caught up in, they're running the ball on us, or they're max protecting. Instead of just focusing on the matchup in front of you, I think we have not won at a high enough percentage for my liking. But I got to be honest with you guys. Like, even when we were on a win streak, I was not going into that room clicking my heels and saying, great job, everybody, let's take the day off. I was hard on them, and I was obviously critical at times we missed those opportunities then. I think it's not been good enough in the last 2 weeks, but I certainly don't think when they max protect or they get the ball out fast that I need to change my tempo and be overly critical of what they're doing. We always got to get better. I think there's a lot of guys in there that need to improve their pass rush. But it's not based on the numbers. It's based on what I see on film.
Yeah, you guys have been kind of banged up. So how much of that has contributed to just your ability to assess where you guys are at?
I can assess where we're at. And like I said, when Jermaine went down, it was hard. We didn't use it as an excuse. When Vez went down, it got harder. We didn't use it as an excuse. And when young guys had to play, that's hard. We didn't use it as an excuse. And so we'll never do that. It is always difficult to assess when you don't have all your bullets in the barrel. And that's always going to be tough, but it's never in this production-based business. At the end of the year, they look at your record, they look at your numbers. Nobody goes back and feels sorry for you because you lost your best player. And I understand that, and that's always been the standard for our room. And in the building, nobody's ever said, well, I guess you can shut it down now. We've always tried to do it. So is it hard? Yeah, it is hard. But honestly, rep by rep, the individual there on his one-to-one matchup has to win. We got to play these things the right way. And when we fail to do that, that's what's disappointing, and that's where we got to be critical. We can get better. So no matter who's out there, the expectation is that they do it the right way, do it to the best of their ability, and we still expect to win at a high level. So when we don't, I think you can still analyze it and be critical of it. We just, like I tell the guys, the world out there doesn't care about our situation. So we have to keep fighting. Our opponents certainly don't, and they're not going to cry that we're down a guy. Plus, I think it says a lot about how I feel about the next guy up. Everybody says it. Have you noticed that? Everybody in the country says it. But you got to mean it. I mean, you really do. That means you got to coach the next guy up, and you got to care about that guy. And when he's up, you can't say, well, hey, buddy, it's okay to fail because you're not the guy in front of you. No, you got to push that guy too, and the expectations have to be the same. And so it is. It's always difficult to accept it and say at the end of the year you look back and say, wow, that was tough. We lost some guys, but we still expect to play at a high level and for this team to be able to depend on us to win those matchups.
Doug Haller, The Athletic. Rob, in your experience, when things don't go well, when things get sideways a little bit, you're not playing well, there's a lot of outside noise. What's the key to kind of turning things around and just going out and playing the way you're capable of?
You can't fix a problem until you identify the problem, right? So the thing is I've been part of some really good teams. I've been part of some really bad teams. I've been through this, okay, as a player and as a coach. The hardest thing to do and the most important thing to do is to be consistent with who you are and make adjustments and identify the problems and fix the problems, okay? So if I go back there, and what people don't realize is like the worst thing you can do is if your team played poorly, if your group played poorly, you should coach it, fix it, push them to do everything. But I can't walk in there, kick in the door, and start screaming and pointing at people just because we lost or we're losing. It's about what's on the film. And people don't realize when we were winning games, I was kicking in the door and I was on people's butts. I was like, that ain't good enough. I don't care what the score was. This ain't good enough. This ain't good enough. What we can't do is change who we are and how we go to these guys because we're losing. We need to be that way all the time. And that's how we are in the defensive line room. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue to be hard on them. I'm going to continue to hold them to the high level. But I'm not going to sit here and finger point now. Their failure is my failure. Their success is my success. And as a matter of fact, I hope that I can give it to them and it be their success. The biggest thing they need to know in the toughest of times is two things. I ain't going to change. I'm not going to turn my back on them, and I'm not going to continue to push the blame and say it's the players, not the coaches, because they're going to do the same thing to us. That's not how it operates. And I love Herm that he has continued to be who he is, but we've made adjustments to how we practice and how we're going to game plan and how those are things you got to do. X's and O's you change. But you have to show consistency in who you are. We have to let them know that we've got their backs, that their success is our success and their failure is our failure. And number two is now you can't over-adjust. I can't come back in there too hard and rough on those guys, but I also can't come in there and start stroking their egos and start stroking their head and say, it's okay. Guys, losing's not okay, failure's not okay. But it's about how you got there. You're going to play great games and do things the right way as a defensive line and then lose games. You're going to come in there and have an off day and win the game. So I can't base how I coach based on wins and losses. I have to base how I coach on winning and losing mentality, winning and losing consistently, play to play, day to day. That's what I've preached from day one with these guys. I have to be consistent on that. I think the biggest thing that needs to happen right now is they need to see consistency in who I am as a coach, but as a team, we have to still show that we're making the adjustments. There's obviously something wrong. Coach has already covered it. When we make mistakes and we don't play to our potential, there's a problem. And we have to fix those problems. What we can't do is over-adjust the tempo of who we are as people. Those kids need to know we've got their back. They need to know we love them. And they need to know we're going to give them a great game plan. And we need to come out here and show it to them by how hard we work for them. And another thing is we have to still consistently have a standard for them and hold them to those expectations. We can't change our expectations just because we've fallen short a couple weeks in a row. And I know it's a long answer, but I've been down this road a couple times, so good and bad. Yeah, I believe so. I believe so. The vibe, I think, is I'm actually been really impressed with everybody as a whole, the energy and the guys. I think it's great that we're playing USC, and I think that's just something that we've been looking forward to for a long time. And a lot of those guys know those guys, and we obviously have a lot of California ties, not just Southern California ties, but a lot of California ties. And like I was living here in Arizona for a couple of years, there's a lot of California ties, period, in the area. So I think it's energized them that they got an opportunity to play USC, got a good opponent. When you put the film on, the record doesn't show, and I think that's good too. When you put the film on, you can show them, man, these dudes got the juice, they got talent, they have size, so they have things in place that can give us problems. And like I said, they can beat anybody if they have a good enough game, and it's going to be a challenge. So that's been an added incentive. but I think the energy's been outstanding. I think the guys have come in here with great attitudes. And another thing, when we go at them and tell them, hey, this wasn't good enough, this wasn't good enough, this wasn't good enough, those guys have responded the right way. You can see in a person's eyes when they're offended or when they are aloof, and I have not seen those eyes. I've seen guys who responded the right way.
Michelle Gardner, Arizona Republic. They've had some issues on the offensive line. Without giving away your game plan, is there things that you can see on tape that you think you can exploit this week?
That's a weekly occurrence, to be honest with you, Michelle. So I always use the story with these guys. We played the Dallas Cowboys, and they had the best offensive line you've ever seen. Tyron Smith is, I don't like to hero worship, but my God, he's so big he has a knee brace as an elbow brace, right? Every week, and we had the same challenge last year against these guys when they had Elijah Vera Tucker at left tackle, and it was really good for me as a coach to show them that we don't hero worship in this room. Every single player that we play has chinks in their armor, good, bad. I don't care how good they are. Even Tyron Smith, they were small chinks in the armor, but they were there. And so we teach them two things. Like, they're wearing USC uniforms, they're great players, they're all really good players. They all have weaknesses. So do you, so do I, so does everybody. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I got them, and we all got them. And so don't look at them as Superman, look at them as Clark Kent. Understand they're wearing Superman's uniform, but they're people. And they bleed like we do. They put their pants on one leg at a time, and they have weaknesses. So we do that on a weekly basis, Michelle. And honestly, I give them a tape every week on every individual offensive lineman that has had significant playing time, and I show them the weaknesses of that said player. So when they line up over that guy, they have a rush plan, and they know how to beat that guy. They know where he's susceptible. And like I said, I got this from Andre Patterson, and we go up against Pro Bowlers, the best of the best in the world. Every single man has his kryptonite. Every Superman has his kryptonite. And so, yes, we do have plans. We always do every week, no matter how good, how bad. We do it the same exact way. We find the issues, and we look how to exploit them and how to attack them.
Rob, I know you guys went with lighter box and wider alignments against Washington State, but between that game and Utah, how have you guys done assignment-wise against the run?
Yeah, assignment-wise, not good enough, obviously, because the numbers say so. And certainly, like, you look at Utah, they made it. There's a difference between yards down the middle and yards on the perimeter, okay? And no matter what, defensive line's always going to contribute to that. And so, obviously, it's with the ends. I think the tackles have done a pretty darn good job through the whole. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. Inconsistent with the ends in terms of when they get to the perimeter. I'll take Utah out of that game because they went 13 personnel, packed it in, pulled a guy all the way out to the perimeter. It became a perimeter play. But in that game, inside, we started to wear down late, and that's what got guys on our linebackers and made it hard for them to get over the top. So we got a part in that, too, with our inside guys. Late in that game, we were getting pushed off the ball, which is not common for us this year. We've done a good job. We wore down late in that. Against Washington State, there was 3 to 4 times our ends were either not outside or inside the spiller and created issues for the guys behind us. But we were a light box to begin with. So when you make that mistake, it's compounded. Because when he gets out there, there's nothing but air and opportunity and bad angles for the next guy over. And we did that about 3 to 4 times, and that's uncommon for us this year. We've been a little inconsistent with that particular deal. We had kind of killed we had killed that dragon for a second, and all of a sudden it came back in this last game. So that was disappointing. But overall, again, sometimes you get sacks, it's not just because of the D-line, it's because of the back end. You know what I mean? And sometimes you stop the run, not because of the D-line, but because the guys behind them. It's a team effort. The defensive line, we've got our part in it, no doubt. But I'm not going to sit here and just say that we're just getting killed off the ball. That's not the truth, so I'm not going to tell you that. But we've got to be more consistent without a doubt.
Yeah. Can you tell us maybe who, at this point in the season, you're most impressed with their progress from the start of the season?
I'm still impressed with DJ Davidson. I think he's gotten better and better and better. But I've been very, very pleased with Anthony Cooper. I think that dude he's still not where he needs to be. Anthony's still inconsistent and makes too many mental mistakes. But, the two guys that I'm still going to always appreciate for the rest of the time, DJ and Shannon, have been warriors for me. But I think the biggest jump has probably been I think Omar's gotten better, and TJ Pesafea have given us real consistent work inside and really done good stuff. But I think Joe Moore's made a jump. He needs to keep pressing, because if he takes his foot off the gas, he's going to regress. And then always B.J. Green, that kid, he's a good player. And the bigger he gets, the more consistently good he's going to be. But those guys, Omar and TJ, have really done a good job. Coop has done a good job. And yeah, so that's a good. Stanley, behind the scenes, you're going to see Stanley's getting better and better. And so I think Stanley, you should see a little bit more of him in the future, because he's really doing a lot of work, gotten a lot better in the last month.
Zach Keenan, Devil's Digest. You talked about the energy that's been going on this week on the practice field. Was that there the week after Utah?
It's funny. I don't think to this level. I thought it was a good week of practice. I really did. Listen, I'm going to tell you what doesn't change. I don't care how much damn energy you have, all right? That don't change how you hold on to the football. If we have fumbles or you have interceptions and stuff like that, that stuff throws your whole game. You can't look back and say, well, hell, we should have worked this during the week and run this play during the week. That's not it. When we start behind the 8 ball, it changes your game plan quick. And that's what really, the way it's not that it happened. Obviously, offensive coaches do a greek job, and they had a good game plan. But those things happen, the whole team has to respond to it, including my group. So I thought the energy was good the week after Utah. I thought we got really good work in the bye week, got good work last week. But when you fall behind the 8 ball for whatever reason, right? You kickoff return, a turnover, pick six, whatever happens, the whole team has to respond to it. And we didn't. You know what I mean? So the week was good, no doubt. I think this week is better. I think the energy is better this week. But if something bad goes bad on Saturday, which it's life, things can happen. We've got to respond to it, regardless of our energy right now. We better have energy when that happens, because something's going to happen, and we better respond the right way. We had a good week, man, and we prepared, and the kids did a good job. The thing is that the way we responded to adversity in the last 2 games, the last game and the half game before that, the second half of the game before that, that ain't good enough. And it ain't good enough, and it's not good enough from anybody in this building. And as a coach, and obviously I'm the defensive line coach, and that's what I'm responsible of, I take that personal. And I thought that my guys did not quit in that game, all right? Our team did not quit, and I'm only in charge of my guys, but I looked at them, and they kept playing hard. But did we play well enough to overcome those things? No. But they gave me great energy. They gave me great preparation. If they didn't, I'd have to call them out. But I'm not. I'm telling you the truth. Those guys worked hard the week after Utah. They worked hard last week. The thing is, we've got to work smart and work hard. And I think that's what we're putting together now, and really streamlining some stuff. And I'm really proud of those guys that they've stayed with us, and they're still plugging away.